are now tuned in to the 411 for your fantasy football with your host, Autumn Wind
Hey, what's going on,
Williams.
everybody? This is Autumn Wind Williams, and you're now tuned in to the 411 for your fantasy football. This is preseason week 3. Yes, indeed. It's almost time for a regular season, and I'm just busy evaluating a lot of different players and teams, how their schemes are, how their defense is working. So, we can have everything together when the season hits, and we can get in those green lines and win us a lot of money. But right now, I'm kicking back, watching the start off of Week 3 preseason. The Philadelphia Eagles versus the Cleveland Browns. Earlier, I gave you guys the guys I was taking in consideration. Came home and got my picks done on time, luckily. Man, rough day at work, but is back to work as usual. Even when I clock out, to help you guys out with the lineups. Now, we're working on preseason Week 3, Friday night. We got a 6-game slate. Let's check out who we have. Okay, let's pull up the lineups right now for FanDuel and DraftKings. And also, don't forget, FanDuel and DraftKings do have a prize pool. I'm talking about a tournament for $200,000 for first place for Week 1, September 9th. DraftKings is a $3 entry for this tournament, where you can win $200,000. Also, FanDuel has an entry for a tournament where you can win $1 million at first place, and that's a $9 entry. If you're not signed up for DraftKings or FanDuel, I will leave the links below in the description, so make sure you check that out, as well as like, comment, subscribe, and share. Share this video. Let your friends, let your family know if they're all into DFS or fantasy football, because even though I'm breaking down things for DFS lineups, it may be beneficial for their fantasy leagues, because I use a lot of the players that I speak on in fantasy leagues that I'm part of myself. Now, I'm going to give you a quarterback for Friday night. I'm going to give you a running back for Friday night, and wide receiver along with a tight end and the defense. But first, let's check out to see who we have on that Friday night slate coming up. And I see on the 6-game slate, we have New England Patriots going against Carolina Panthers, New York Giants versus the New York Jets, the Denver Broncos versus the Washington Redskins, Detroit Lions versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Seattle Seahawks versus the Minnesota Vikings, Green Bay Packers versus the Oakland Raiders. Alright, so what I have first at running back is Teddy Bridgewater versus the Giants. Now, the reason why I got Teddy Bridgewater is part of the news that I delivered earlier on my video when I was at the Oakland Raiders headquarters. Right now, yesterday, they end up signing a cornerback, Rogers Camardi. They still haven't worked out anything on defense. Yesterday, there was a lot of talks, a lot of speculation going on that the New York Jets is interested in getting Khalil Mack in a trade. And when you look at the Jets, they already traded Hackenberg to the Raiders on the offseason for a draft pick, I believe. Very last draft pick. That didn't work out. The Raiders end up releasing that guy not even, 2 or 3 weeks later. I would have told him it wasn't going to work out from jump. But what I'm getting at, they now have 3 quarterbacks on their roster, all capable of being starters. Derek Carr needs a backup, because you saw the whole entire debacle with Connor Cook and McGloin 2 years ago in the wild card when Derek Carr was injured. I was at that very last game when Derek Carr got injured. Me and my brother won tickets to go to the Raiders game. They had us sit in the Oakland A's bleachers watching that game. They catered for us, fed us, gave us drinks. But anyway, enough with my story. I get caught up in all of that all the time, I know. But back to my story. They got 3 quarterbacks that can actually be Week 1 starter for the New York Jets. I'm talking about Josh McCown, that they have a lot of trust in. He knows the playbook very well. I don't see him leaving. They got the new quarterback, Sam Darnold, the rookie. He's looking pretty good, and I think they want to mold him into being a future franchise quarterback. So that leads me to think that they want to showcase Teddy Bridgewater, who they also picked up on the offseason. He was out pretty much the majority of last season when he was with the Vikings. He's with a new team, trying to blend in. He's looking great in preseason, and that's the reason why they probably want to showcase him a little bit more to use him as trade bait. And he would be great to be part of a package to get Khalil Mack traded over to the New York Jets. They got what the Jets want. The Jets got what the Raiders may want as far as a backup for Derek Carr in case an injury happens again, or they just want to try out to see if they need someone else as starter if Derek Carr does not work out the way that everybody expects him to in his 5th year. And I'm also looking at, on a side note, this is an extra. Take this as a bonus. Stafford from the Lions. Because there's word that the Lions is trying to play all of their starters extra minutes. And I think Matthew Stafford would be a great pick as far as week 3. He's a great starter. Matt Patricia, you want to see what he got. And I don't blame him. This is a brand new team for Matt Patricia coming from the New England Patriots. He now got this head coach role, and he wants to make sure he got effective offense and defense. So I can see guys running out there with a lot of extra minutes, maybe even over second half. So I might take him in consideration, but right now I'm still focusing more on Teddy Bridgewater because I feel like they want to showcase him more to trade him for some very valuable players, whether it's defense or offense. Now moving to running back, Christian McCaffrey from the Carolina Panthers facing the New England Patriots. Now, when everybody think of Patriots and Bill Belichick, he's a genius at stopping guys that's been hot on the opposing football team. But he might be more focused on Cam Newton more than anything. And I'm expecting Cam Newton to get a lot more playing time. Also, they're treating this as a dress rehearsal. All teams are treating this as a dress rehearsal on week 3. And, Patriots, they pretty much treated last week as a dress rehearsal with getting Tom Brady out there, a lot more amount of touches than a lot more series than I expected. I wouldn't be surprised if they stick Tom Brady out there a little bit more, but as far as with the Panthers, I'm expecting them to focus more on Cam Newton, less on Christian McCaffrey. I could be wrong, and they might go C.J. Anderson strong because he played a little bit, a decent amount for week 1 and week 2, but not as much as I expected for him to be on the field, especially with him being on a new team, coming from the Denver Broncos. But I like what I see from Christian McCaffrey. They're working him a different way than the past season, where he was more of a catching running back. Now he's getting the ball on handoffs a lot more. Now that they're not having Jonathan Stewart there to vulture the touchdowns from Christian McCaffrey. Last week, let's see what he got. Okay, let's pull up his stats from last week. All right, he had 5 carries for 92 yards and got a touchdown. That's 2 weeks in a row he got a touchdown. 4 catches for 28 yards on 5 targets. He's looking good out there, man. So that's why I'm considering Christian McCaffrey as my running back. Wide receiver, I know a lot of people are focusing on this being a revenge game for Jordy Nelson, even though it wasn't no serious revenge with him parting ways with the Green Bay Packers, Oakland Raiders versus Green Bay Packers tonight. I see that being a pretty much of a chalky game. I don't expect Aaron Rodgers to be out there. If he does, he won't play a lot of minutes. I don't expect Derek Carr to be out there for a lot of minutes. I think this is going to be a running game.
Before you hit that lock button, there is something you need to know.
And when I say this is going to be a running game, before I get to the wide receiver, there is something you need to know. I know a lot of people are focused on Marshawn Lynch, especially week 1, after that big run he got, and it was a flag and got caught back when he made that huge, I think it was 62 yards for a touchdown. But I don't think Marshawn Lynch is going to play much because John Gruden, he mentioned on the offseason he wants to make this an old school type of football team and run the ball a lot. And he's been hinting about getting Doug Martin the ball a lot more because you got to look at this backfield. They got not only behind Marshawn Lynch, Doug Martin, Jalen Richard, DeAndre Washington, and the brand new rookie that's looking phenomenal the past 2 weeks, Chris Warren. I believe he's an undrafted rookie too. Chris Warren, man, he was unbelievable the past 2 weeks. I didn't expect that out of this guy. I expected a lot from D'Angelo Washington and Jalen Richard, but I didn't expect a lot from Chris Warren III. He's going to make it hard for Doug Martin. I wouldn't be surprised if Doug Martin is actually the one that's cut from the team. I didn't believe in that pickup anyway from Gruden by getting Doug Martin when they already had Marshawn Lynch and already had backups that were very reliable. But bringing on a guy like Chris Warren, I thought he was unbelievable. You guys might want to consider playing him too. But back to what I was originally saying, I get so sidetracked, I know. I get excited about football. We got regular season right around the corner. Even though I got my little issues about the NFL, I'm a football guy. It's hard for me to boycott. It's hard for me to not play fantasy. It's hard for me not to play DFS. But back to what I was saying with wide receiver, I know a lot of people are looking at this as a revenge game for not only Jordy Nelson, but also the tight end, Jared Cook. But we got to think about this is not going to be in Green Bay, so it's not an actual revenge game. I believe Martavius Bryant is going to be the guy to look at to get these touches. I'm expecting him to have a lot of game time because last week he had really bad migraines. That was noted by beat writer Victor Tafer of the Athletic Bay Area. I think he's really going to get a lot of playing time because he didn't even play at all Saturday due to those migraines, and it seemed like a limited role for the week 1 as well. And when they're stacked at wide receiver, they got some good wide receivers coming behind the big 3 right there: Jordy Nelson, Amari Cooper, and Martavius Bryant. Can't forget Seth Roberts, and he might have some competition. He's looking at right now number 3 or number 4 wide receiver, but when they have guys right behind him that's well equipped to take over the role, they want to see what else they can get out of Martavius Bryant. Is he going to be the Martavius Bryant that wasn't getting suspended when he was with the Steelers, wasn't causing drama in the locker room? They want to see what he got. And when this guy has his head focused right, not doing any PDs, marijuana, migraines, or injured, he's an unbelievable wide receiver. He's a big weapon for Derek Carr. He got the height, he got the hands, he got the speed. So I'm expecting John Gruden to have Martavius Bryant out on that field a lot more for week 3. All right, now moving on to tight end, I want to move over to the other side of that ball where we have Mercedes Lewis. Mercedes Lewis, he had one of his best seasons last year in the NFL, and he's now with the Green Bay Packers, and they're stacked with tight end. And I want everybody else to look at, they're stacked at tight end. The Raiders have always been bad facing tight ends. And you got Jimmy Graham. I don't expect to get a lot of playing time. You got Lance Kendricks that they also got over the offseason. And you got Mercedes Lewis. Mercedes Lewis is expecting to be the go-to guy behind Jimmy Graham, playing second string. And I believe it's going to be a little bit of competitive battle with Mercedes Lewis and Lance Kendricks. So I'm considering playing Mercedes Lewis. He wants to keep that number 2 role and show that he's no joke from last year's season. And I feel like my gut feeling tells me he's going to get a touchdown or 2. Based on how the Raiders they blow the game by letting the tight end control them on the field. And so that's the reason why I'm considering picking Mercedes Lewis as my tight end. Now, as far as defense, when it comes to football teams, all 32 teams, there are 2 teams I never trust at quarterback, and that's Miami Dolphins and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah, both Florida teams. And Detroit Lions, as I mentioned earlier with Stafford and how Matt Patricia wants to play his starters a lot of minutes for week 3, including the defense. And they're going against Jameis Winston, who's going to be under suspension week 1. He played okay last week. 13 for 18 passes, 226 yards with 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. But when he's facing a decent defense and guys are fumbling or not catching the ball, or he has the issue with the biting the W, eat the W or whatever, he's just weird, out of control when the Bucs start losing. I don't trust that guy. And I don't trust his receivers that much. And to me, they're probably going to have to get it together with the run game and get ahead 14-0 before they can certify that they have ability to even win the game. Going with that, Jameis Winston, like I said, he's just an out-of-control quarterback. To me, he's not a strong leader in that locker room when he's way too authoritative. I mean, quarterbacks should be authoritative when they're the captain of the team, but he's way too authoritative with like a temper tantrum when he's not getting his way. And that makes everybody else it lowers the morale on their whole entire team, and they don't play well. I see it happen week after week with Jameis Winston. And when I look under him, Ryan Fitzpatrick, the only time that I thought Ryan Fitzpatrick was great when it was like a three musketeer type of lineup with Brandon Marshall, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Eric Decker when he was with the New York Jets. That time has went. Ryan Fitzpatrick's a whole lot older now. What did he do? Let's see. Last game, he completed 5 out of 13 passes for 46 yards, no touchdowns or interceptions. That tells you what you got with that guy. He's certified third string to me. Under him, the only one I see capable of doing something is the rookie not Austin Allen. What am I saying? The rookie Ryan Griffin. Ryan Griffin had a decent game. What was it? I believe it was week 1 versus the Dolphins. They got a victory. It went 20 for 26, 179 yards and a touchdown, no interceptions. I mean, if they put him out there, you might want to consider him. I believe he's going to be a second half guy, but I don't see much happening with the Bucs. So that's the reason why I'm considering playing the Lions defense versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that's what you have from me for Friday night, week 3. I have at quarterback the Jets, Teddy Bridgewater versus the Giants. The running back Panthers, Carolina Panthers, Christian McCaffrey versus McCaffrey. I always say McCaffrey. McCaffrey versus the New England Patriots. And wide receiver Martavius Bryant from the Oakland Raiders versus the Green Bay Packers. Tight end Green Bay Packers Mercedes Lewis versus the Oakland Raiders. And on defense, the Detroit Lions versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. So if y'all want to consider using what I have right here, I wish you the best. Hopefully you cash and, you know, win a lot of money. Don't forget to tip a brother if you do. And with that said, I'm out of here. This is the 411 for your fantasy football. I'll holler at y'all later. I know we got a Saturday game slate, so I'll try to get something up for you after a little bit of research. But besides that, just win, baby.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the 411 Podcast. Now get ready to make that money. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at the 411 DFS.